In the late 16th century, across the vast, tumultuous expanse of the Atlantic, a new world beckoned. It was a realm of untold riches, uncharted territories, and unimaginable dangers, a crucible where empires would be forged and shattered. For England, then a burgeoning maritime power jostling for supremacy with the formidable Spanish, this new frontier represented not just an economic prize, but a profound statement of national ambition. It was an era of audacious dreams, of explorers driven by a potent cocktail of glory, greed, and God, venturing into the unknown on ships no larger than modern fishing vessels. And within this grand tapestry of exploration and conquest, one name would come to symbolize the enduring enigma of the American wilderness: Roanoke. The Lost Colony. The story begins not with disappearance, but with arrival, with the hopeful dawn of English settlement on the shores of what they called Virginia. Sir Walter Raleigh, a dashing courtier and favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, was the visionary behind this bold enterprise. Granted a royal patent in 1584, he envisioned a permanent English foothold in the New World, a strategic counterpoint to Spain's sprawling dominion, and a source of wealth for the crown. Raleigh himself never set foot in America, but his ambition fueled the expeditions, his fortune bankrolled the ships, and his influence secured the necessary royal blessing. The initial reconnaissance mission, dispatched in 1584 under the command of Philip Amatus and Arthur Barlow, offered an intoxicating glimpse of paradise. They landed on an island they named Roanoke, off the coast of present-day North Carolina, and were met with an abundance that seemed almost mythical. Barlow's reports, effusive and perhaps embellished for a demanding patron, spoke of a land most agreeable and pleasing to the eye, teeming with grapes, cedars, and deer. The native inhabitants, particularly the Algonquian-speaking people led by Wingina, were described as friendly and curious, willing to trade and share their knowledge of the land. Two of these natives, Manteo and Wanchese, returned to England with the explorers, their presence a living testament to the wonders of the New World, further stoking the fires of English enthusiasm. This optimistic prelude set the stage for the first serious attempt at colonization. In 1585, a fleet of 7 ships, carrying approximately 100 men, mostly soldiers and scientists, sailed for Roanoke. The expedition was led by Sir Richard Grenville, with Ralph Lane appointed as governor of the nascent colony. Their mission was clear: establish a military outpost, explore the surrounding territory, and search for resources, particularly gold and silver, which had so enriched the Spanish. They built a fort and dwellings, their structures rising tentatively from the unfamiliar soil, a fragile testament to English resolve. But the idyllic vision quickly began to fray. The colonists, primarily men with military backgrounds, lacked the agricultural skills necessary to sustain themselves. They were dependent on the native population for food, a dependence that quickly bred resentment and suspicion on both sides. The English, with their superior weaponry and sense of cultural superiority, were prone to taking what they needed, further straining the fragile relationship. Lane, a rigid military man, struggled to adapt to the nuanced diplomacy required for peaceful coexistence. Tensions escalated. A silver cup, allegedly stolen by a native, led to a punitive English raid on a village, burning crops and houses. Wingina, initially welcoming, grew increasingly wary and hostile. He began to organize resistance, withdrawing his people and their vital food supplies from the English. Lane, convinced Wingina was plotting to annihilate his colony, launched a preemptive strike. During a parley, Wingina and several of his chieftains were murdered. This act of brutal betrayal irrevocably poisoned the well of Anglo-native relations, setting a dangerous precedent for future interactions. Just as the colony teetered on the brink of collapse, ravaged by hunger and surrounded by hostile tribes, a miraculous sight appeared on the horizon: the sails of Sir Francis Drake's fleet, returning from a successful raid against the Spanish in the Caribbean. Drake offered the beleaguered colonists a passage home. Most seized the opportunity, their dreams of glory overshadowed by the harsh realities of survival. They boarded Drake's ships, leaving Roanoke in June of 1586, their venture a costly failure. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, Grenville arrived with a relief fleet just weeks after Drake's departure. Finding the settlement deserted, he left behind a small contingent of 15 men to maintain England's claim to the land and to protect the fort. Their fate would become a grim foreshadowing of the larger mystery to come. Raleigh, undeterred by the failures of Lane's military outpost, remained committed to his vision. He learned from the mistakes of the past, recognizing that a sustainable colony required not soldiers and explorers, but families, farmers, and artisans, people committed to building a new life, not just exploiting resources. This marked a significant shift in strategy. The next expedition, planned for 1587, was to be a city of Raleigh, a self-sufficient agricultural community, ideally located further north in the Chesapeake Bay area, a region believed to offer better prospects for farming and a more sheltered harbor. John White, an accomplished artist and cartographer who had been part of the 1585 expedition, was appointed governor. His detailed watercolors, depicting the native peoples, their customs, and the flora and fauna of the region, provide an invaluable window into this lost world. White was a man of observation and diplomacy, seemingly better suited to the delicate task of establishing peaceful relations. With him sailed approximately 115 men, women, and children, representing a cross-section of English society, including White's own daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband Ananias. They carried with them not just tools and provisions, but the profound hope of a new beginning. Their journey across the Atlantic was arduous, but the real trouble began upon their arrival in the New World. Their pilot, a Portuguese navigator named Simon Fernandez, who was also a privateer, had his own agenda. Instead of sailing north to the Chesapeake Bay as instructed, he insisted on landing the colonists back at Roanoke Island, claiming it was too late in the season to continue further. This was a catastrophic deviation from Raleigh's plan. Roanoke, with its shallow waters and already hostile native population, was a far from ideal location for a permanent settlement. Upon landing in July 1587, the colonists made a chilling discovery. The small fort and dwellings left behind by Grenville's 15 men in 1586 were in ruins. Human bones lay scattered among the remains, a grim testament to their violent end. It was clear the local tribes, undoubtedly the same who had clashed with Lane, had exacted their revenge. The new colonists, intended for a fresh start, were immediately confronted with the brutal legacy of their predecessors. They set about rebuilding, salvaging what they could from the overgrown ruins. Attempts were made to re-establish contact with the local tribes, but the deep mistrust, fueled by Lane's actions, proved insurmountable. Only Manteo, the friendly chief who had visited England, remained loyal. Through his efforts, a fragile peace was forged with his own people, the CROATOAN, who inhabited what is now Hatteras Island. Then, on August 18, 1587, a beacon of hope pierced the encroaching gloom. John White's granddaughter, Virginia Dare, was born, the first English child born in the Americas. Her birth was a powerful symbol, a tangible embodiment of the colony's aspirations, a promise of a new generation rooted in this foreign soil. Yet, despite this moment of joy, the colony was struggling. Supplies dwindled, and the growing season was already advanced. The colonists, many of them unaccustomed to the rigors of frontier life, faced an uncertain future. With winter approaching and the need for fresh provisions becoming desperate, the colonists collectively implored Governor White to return to England. He was reluctant, fearing for the safety of his family and the colony, but recognized the critical urgency. He departed in late August 1587, leaving behind his daughter, son-in-law, and infant granddaughter, promising to return with aid as swiftly as possible. It was a promise he desperately intended to keep, a promise that would haunt him for the rest of his life. White's return to England was met with a nation in crisis. The formidable Spanish Armada, King Philip II's Invincible Armada, was preparing to launch its assault on England. Every available ship, every able-bodied sailor, every ounce of national resource was diverted to the monumental task of defense. Raleigh, despite his influence, found his efforts to secure a relief fleet for Roanoke continually thwarted. The survival of an entire nation took precedence over the fate of a small, distant colony. White, consumed by anxiety, made repeated, desperate pleas. He secured passage on 2 small pinnaces in April 1588, hoping to slip past the Spanish blockade. But these vessels, repurposed for privateering, were more interested in capturing prizes than in delivering supplies. They were attacked by French pirates, their meager provisions plundered, and they were forced to return to England, a bitter setback. The Spanish Armada was ultimately defeated in July 1588, a triumph for England, but a death knell for the Roanoke colonists. The national emergency had effectively marooned them. For 3 agonizing years, John White remained trapped in England, watching helplessly as the precious window of opportunity closed. He recorded his anguish in his journals, a poignant testament to a man torn between duty and family, haunted by the knowledge that each passing day brought his loved ones closer to destitution, disease, or worse. The 3-year delay was the critical factor, the silent killer of hope, leaving the colonists isolated and vulnerable in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. Finally, in March 1590, White secured passage on a privateering expedition led by Captain John Watts. The agreement was that the ships would stop at Roanoke on their way to the Caribbean, allowing White to deliver the much-needed supplies. It was a perilous journey, filled with encounters with Spanish ships and the constant threat of storms. White's heart must have pounded with a mixture of dread and anticipation as they finally approached the Outer Banks in August 1590. On August 18, 1590, his granddaughter Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday, John White landed on Roanoke Island. The scene that greeted him was one of profound desolation. The palisade, built by the colonists 3 years prior, had been dismantled. The houses were gone, meticulously taken down, not destroyed in a sudden attack. A large, defensive fort, which White had instructed them to build, was nowhere to be seen. It was as if the entire settlement had been carefully, deliberately, removed. As he searched the deserted site, a chilling discovery emerged, one that would become the enduring symbol of the Roanoke mystery. Carved into one of the palisade posts, in clear, bold letters, was a single word, CROATOAN. And on a tree nearby, the letters CRO were etched. White remembered the prearranged signal: if the colonists were forced to leave the island due to distress or attack, they were to carve a Maltese cross above their destination. There was no cross. This detail was crucial. It suggested a planned, unhurried departure, not a desperate flight. The word CROATOAN pointed to Hatteras Island, the ancestral home of Mantios people, with whom the colonists had maintained a tenuous friendship. Hope flickered within White's weary heart. They had gone to CROATOAN, to Mantios people. Perhaps they were safe, integrated into the native community. He pleaded with Captain Watts to sail to CROATOAN, a mere 50 miles south. But fate, as it often does, intervened with cruel indifference. A violent storm erupted, battering the ships, snapping anchor cables, and threatening to drive them onto the shoals. Several men were lost at sea. With limited provisions and mounting fear, the ship's captains, their primary mission being privateering profits, refused to risk further lives or their vessels. They decided to abandon the search and proceed to the Caribbean. John White was forced to leave, never to see his family again, never to learn their true fate. He died years later, his heart undoubtedly heavy with the unanswered questions of Roanoke. His final departure from the desolate island marked the official end of the search for the lost colonists, ushering in centuries of speculation, legend, and archaeological pursuit. The mystery of Roanoke has captivated historians and the public ever since. What truly happened to those 115 men, women, and children? The CROATOAN clue has given rise to the most enduring and widely accepted theory, that the colonists integrated with the local Native American tribes. This scenario suggests that, facing starvation and increasingly hostile conditions after White's departure, they sought refuge and sustenance with Mantios-friendly CROATOAN people. Over time, they would have intermarried, assimilated into the native culture, and effectively ceased to exist as a distinct English colony. There is some tantalizing, albeit circumstantial, evidence to support this integration theory. English explorers in the early 17th century, particularly those associated with the Jamestown colony, reported encountering Native Americans with European features, such as lighter skin, gray or blue eyes, and even some who claimed to have ancestors who came from the sea. A 1609 map, known as the Zuniga map, depicts a fort-like structure inland from Roanoke, with a notation stating that for men clothed that came from Roanoke were living among the Cainists. Later accounts from the Hatteras people, who claim descent from the CROATOAN, also speak of ancestors who were white Indians. Modern initiatives like the Lost Colony DNA project seek to link descendants of local tribes with potential European markers, though definitive proof remains elusive. Another prominent theory, though less supported by the CROATOAN clue, is that the colonists were massacred. Captain John Smith, of Jamestown fame, recorded an account from Chief Powhatan, who claimed to have personally ordered the slaughter of the Roanoke colonists, who were by then living among a tribe called the Chesapeake. Powhatan, a powerful and cunning leader, may have seen the English as a threat, or he may have been boasting to intimidate Smith. The timing of Powhatan's account, years after the fact, and his known manipulative tendencies, cast doubt on its veracity. Furthermore, the absence of a distress cross and the orderly dismantling of the fort suggest a planned departure, not a sudden, violent end. However, it's possible they moved to CROATOAN and then were attacked by a different, less friendly tribe. Starvation and disease are always a grim possibility for early colonies. The rigors of the journey, unfamiliar climate, poor sanitation, and lack of adequate food supplies claimed countless lives in the early days of American settlement. While these factors undoubtedly contributed to the colonists' struggles, the organized nature of the disappearance, particularly the carving of CROATOAN without a distress signal, suggests a more proactive, if desperate, decision than simply succumbing to the elements. A variation of the relocation theory proposes that the colonists attempted to reach their original intended destination, the Chesapeake Bay. Perhaps, after several years, they decided to abandon Roanoke and venture north, hoping to find a more suitable location or a passing English ship. However, this theory struggles to explain the CROATOAN carving, which explicitly points south, not north. In recent decades, archaeological investigations have added new layers to the mystery. Excavations on Hatteras Island, the historical CROATOAN, have yielded a fascinating array of English artifacts, pottery shards, gunflints, a copper ring, found within Native American contexts. These discoveries suggest a prolonged interaction between the two groups, supporting the integration theory. The artifacts are not simply trade goods, but items that would have been used by English settlers, indicating a possible cohabitation or close relationship. Even more recently, a cryptic patch on John White's famous Virginia Pars map, discovered through advanced imaging techniques, has opened another avenue of investigation. This patch, believed to have concealed a symbol for a fort, points to a site approximately 50 miles inland, near present-day Bertie County, North Carolina. This Site X, as it's been dubbed, has been the subject of intensive archaeological digs. Here, two English artifacts dating to the late 16th century have been unearthed, alongside Native American items. This suggests the possibility that some colonists, or perhaps a splinter group, moved inland, possibly attempting to establish a secondary settlement or a temporary refuge, perhaps seeking a more secure location away from the coast and its inherent dangers. The enduring legacy of Roanoke lies not just in its unsolved mystery, but in its profound impact on the American imagination. It stands as a powerful, haunting testament to the fragility of early colonial ambitions, a cautionary tale woven into the very fabric of American history. The story has been immortalized in plays, books, and documentaries, most famously the Lost Colony outdoor drama, performed annually near the original site since 1937, which offers a dramatic, albeit fictionalized, interpretation of their fate. Virginia Dare, the first English child born on American soil, remains a potent symbol of hope, innocence, and the ultimate vulnerability of those who dared to dream of a new life across the ocean. Roanoke reminds us that the narrative of discovery and settlement was rarely clean or triumphal. It was messy, brutal, and often tragically brief. The colonists were not just names in a historical register, they were men, women, and children with hopes, fears, and dreams. They faced unimaginable challenges, a harsh environment, cultural clashes, the constant threat of starvation, and the crushing weight of isolation. The search for the lost colony continues, propelled by modern technology and an insatiable human curiosity. Each new archaeological find, each re-examination of historical documents, offers a tantalizing glimpse, a whisper from the past, but no definitive answer. Perhaps the greatest truth of Roanoke is that the colony never truly disappeared. It simply transformed. It ceased to be an English outpost and became something else, something new, woven into the intricate tapestry of the American landscape and its indigenous peoples. The winds still sweep across the Outer Banks, the waves still crash on Roanoke Island, and the ancient forests still hold their secrets. The mystery of the Lost Colony of Roanoke endures, a powerful reminder that history is not always neatly resolved, that some questions may forever echo unanswered. It is a story of ambition and resilience, of hope and despair, a timeless enigma that continues to beckon us into the depths of America's earliest beginnings, forever lost, yet forever found in the heart of our collective imagination.